never fear. Your fear buster coach is here. Oh, no capes, no capes. You know what happens to them. No capes. We don't need capes here. That's right. How's everybody doing? Trust your senses. That's what this is about today. Fear Buster Friday. Woo, let's say it together. It's Fear Buster Friday. Woo, woo. All right. Trust your senses. Okay. Fear Busters trust their senses. Here's my little story for today. A couple days ago, I went to the kitchen for some lunch. And before I went into the refrigerator, I was doing, I don't even remember what I was doing, but I was doing something and I was walking, probably taking care of the dogs or something. I kept walking by the refrigerator and I'm like, oh boy, this really smells disgusting. Something smells disgusting. I didn't know what it was at first, but every time, so then I started sniffing it out, you know. And I don't know about you, but I have a very sensitive nose. So I knew that something was wrong. I trusted my senses and I kept sniffing it out. I finally knew that it was coming from the refrigerator. I opened up the freezer first. I have one of those freezer on one side, fridge on the other. I open up the freezer. Ah! What did I find? It was black. There was a fire in the freezer. So I thought, well, how'd that happen? What happened was in the morning, my mother-in-law wanted some ice. I got one ice cube, couldn't get any more. So then I went into the freezer, noticed no ice, so the ice maker needed to go on. Sometimes, you know, if it makes too much, you have to turn it off. It wasn't making any, and there wasn't any left, so I put the little gizmo down so it could make more. Little did I know that it kind of blew up later. But I left the breakfast area to go work on the computer. Later at lunch, when I noticed the smell and saw what happened, I asked my mother-in-law and my son. Well, I told them first what happened. There was a fire in the freezer and it smells so disgusting. And they said, yeah, we noticed a smell too. And I'm like, but you didn't know what happened? No, we had no idea what it was. We thought it was, and then they kind of blamed it on our critters. You know, we clean up after guinea pigs and a rabbit, and I'm like, poop doesn't smell like that. Come on. It was very, very, you know, um, electrical smell, plasticky, yucky. Oh my gosh, I can't even, I'm still smelling it. It's disgusting. So, but I had to teach, you know, like I'm trying to teach my son, you know, hey, you got to trust your senses when, you know, whether it's your sight, your, your feelings, you know, your emotions, or even the touch feelings, or what you're hearing, or what you're smelling. You got to trust that something is wrong. If you see, smell, whatever, something that is out of the ordinary, trust it and figure out what it is. I said, it could have been a worse, you know, it wasn't an emergency, thank goodness. It was all contained. Didn't even see anything happen till it was done. But I said, you got to trust your senses. And so that's the fear basta lesson today, is to trust your senses. Now we have the five senses and we need to trust those. What else do we have? We have a sixth sense. It's that gut instinct, right? Or sometimes people call it the gut instinct, or I just knew it in my bones that this would happen. And so when you have those types of senses too, trust them. They're probably right. I bet you can think of a time when something happened or something didn't feel quite right, and you just kind of knew, or you knew somebody that you were going to see somebody that day, or if you have lived long enough like me without the cell phone, you know who's calling before you pick it up, or maybe before you see the number, you know who's calling you. um, or these days we can't even memorize phone numbers, so we program them and we see, oh, it's so and so calling me. But the fear bust a move today is to just be more open and trusting to your instincts, but not just that. We're built with senses, all kinds of senses, you know, and so don't just trust your physical senses, but trust that metaphysical sense of just that it's an all knowing kind of sense. Um, and I just have a couple more minutes because I have an appointment, but I'll give you an example of what happened to me um, many years ago. I knew that something was going to happen, but I didn't know what. And I just had this feeling that something was going to happen, or that I needed, really the feeling was I needed to go outside. So I did. And I was only about 14 years old, but I knew I had to get outside. I was playing with a friend and I said, let's go outside. She said, okay. So we go outside. And my mother was with one of our horses. And all of a sudden, the horse bucked up, reared up a little bit, and hit his head. Actually, he didn't jump up. It was just that he put his head up. I don't know why, just suddenly maybe. Maybe he was a little spooked at something. I'm not sure. But then he got more spooked because his head hit a branch on a tree, because he was tied to a tree while my mother was brushing him. And then all of a sudden he got so scared of the fact that he hit his head on a branch that he pulled away from the tree, got loose, ran out into the highway, because we live right on a highway and I'm still living in that same house today. And I was right there and I was ready, but I didn't know what was going to happen. But you see, I had a gut sense that I needed to go outside right then and there. So there I was, and I ran up the driveway and ran on the highway to catch him. And I did, and all was well. But he was running down the road as the cars were coming at him, but there was no accidents. Luckily, the cars stopped, and I was like, oh, thank God. And I grabbed his rope and led him to safety. But you see, you always have to trust your gut instinct. It could be wrong. Yes, it could be, but most often it's right. So trust it. And the fear bust a move is to simply be more open to that, you know, um, and just like welcome it, and and um, you know, like look for things, and notice how you're feeling, notice what you're smelling, notice what you're seeing. Um, you know, you can kind of practice the sixth sense by practicing your other senses, and just learning to trust, and say to yourself, yeah, maybe I should listen to that. There might be some truth in it. All right. Well, I'm Lydia Rieger, and I'm your Fear Busta coach. And remember to make